Welcome to the second tutorial for Procedural Studio. We have created a simple mountain terrain using erosion, and now we're going to create a texture for our terrain. To do that, I'm going to go to the tab Image and select the node Colorize with Gradient. Drag that to the main area and click on the node Colorize with Gradient, and then I'm going to click on Select Scale to create a simple color scale using this color scale editor dialog. First, I'm going to click on this gradient widget on the left side, and again click on the widget on the right side to create two markers. If I select the first marker, I can choose a color. In this case, I'm going to choose a gray color for a rocky area of our terrain, and then I'm going to click on the second marker and again choose a gray color with a darker value, which is going to be used for rocky areas with rubble or wet rock. I'm going to click OK. So this is our color gradient now, and to choose between the two colors of the gradients, I'm going to use our flow map, which is also an output of our erosion node, and this map indicates the areas where rubble or sediment or water flow down the mountain. I'm going to connect that flow map to the input of our gradient generator, and now I can see that if I click on the Colorize with Gradient node in the preview window, I can now see that the areas where the sediment flows down are colored with the darker gray value from our gradient, and the other areas are colored with the lighter gray value. So this is going to be the texture for our rocky areas of the terrain. The steep areas of the terrain are going to be the ones that are rocky, and the flatter areas where sediment is deposited and plants can grow, that's going to be colored in a green or brown color. So I'm going to create another node of the type Colorize with Gradient, which is going to be used for non-rocky areas that are not steep, where plants can grow. And I'm going to create another color scale by clicking on Select Scale again. And now I'm going to create two markers again to define our color scale. I'm going to left click on the left marker and choose a greenish color for grass or plants, vegetation. And I'm going to click on the right marker and choose a more brownish color for the areas that are muddy. Click OK. And again, our flow map is going to choose whether areas are muddy in the flow channels or green with grass in those areas where the sediment flow does not play a role. Okay, so now we have two textures, one for the rocky areas that is grayish, and one for the non-rocky areas that is green or brown. And I'm going to use the steepness of our terrain to select between these two textures. So our steepness map is going to get the erosion result as the input. The erosion result is the height map. This is basically our terrain after the erosion result. So this height map is going to be the input image for our steepness map. And in the preview visualization, you can already see that the steeper areas are colored in white or a lighter shade of gray, and the flat areas are dark or black. With this strength slider, I can adjust the steepness value, the brightness value of the steepness map. I'm going to go up a little bit. So now I have this map to indicate the areas that are steep or flat. And I'm going to use this map to choose between these two textures. I can do that by using a selector. So the selector node gets two input images, A and B, which is our two flow map based textures. And the choice will be the steepness map. If I click on this node, I'm not going to see a preview because some of the inputs are not available yet. So I'm going to have to execute our graph. And now I can see that the flat areas of our terrain are either green or brown, depending on the erosion flow. And the steeper areas of our mountain are either gray or dark gray, also depending on the flow of our erosion. Now, as you can see in the visualization window, which is showing the result of our erosion function, we can still see the debug visualization with the red erosion flow and the green deposition area. If I want to see, and if I click on the final result of our texturization, I'm just going to see this texture image. What I want to see is the height map terrain with the new texture applied. To see that, I'm going to go to the tab Geologic, and I'm going to choose the node Texture Terrain. Basically, this node is mostly made for visualization. It takes two inputs, a terrain and a texture, and it's going to show the texture terrain. As the texture, I'm going to use our image. As the terrain, I'm going to use the result of the erosion, which is the height map. And now, if I click on it in the preview visualization, I can already see the texture applied to our mountain. If I execute, it will be calculated. I can click on Show Results, and I can see it in the main window. We now have our mountain, where the steep areas are gray, and the steep areas with erosion flow are dark gray, and the flatter areas are either greenish or brown. So this is a very simple way to create a textured terrain. And if I want a larger view of this, I can also undock the window. It'll open this textured terrain in the new window, increase the size of it, and now I can see the terrain. I'll close this window, and one more thing that I can do for a nicer visualization is I can increase the resolution a little bit. And when we created the pyramid image using this image from 2D function node in the first tutorial, the resolution was already set to 256 by 256 pixels, which is a very low resolution. It's good because the calculation times are going to be very short. But for now, to have a nicer visualization, I'm going to go with a higher resolution of 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels height and width. Now, if I recalculate the whole graph again, this time it'll take a few seconds to calculate on my notebook. Especially the erosion takes a little bit more than 6 seconds. But after a few seconds, the whole graph is calculated, and you can see that now we have a higher resolution, both in our height map. You can see more detail as well as in our texture. We still don't see much brown color in the flat areas for the erosion flow. So I'm going to adjust our colorize with gradient node a little bit. Select the scale again and click on the right marker. And I'm going to choose, again, a brownish color, but with a darker value of brown. And I'm going to move this marker a little bit to the left so that we'll have a little bit more brownish erosion flow visible. Okay, and calculate again. Click on Show Results. And now we can see more brownish erosion flow in our flat areas of our terrain. I like that better. Click on the Show Results button of our final texture to look at the high resolution image again. You can use that as our first terrain texture. So Now we have the terrain from the first tutorial, textured with a very simple gradient-based texturing approach. Of course, you can do many more advanced things, like, for example, you can apply rock textures or forest textures or grass textures to the appropriate areas of your terrain. I think it's a good idea to use these outputs of the erosion node to select between different terrain areas. In addition to the flow map, you can also use these other maps. For example, the deposition areas are colored in white in this deposition map, and the drainage areas are colored in white in this drainage map. Play around with the results for optimum texturing effects. Thank you for watching, and in our next tutorial, we're going to look at more interesting shapes for our erosion input to create more interesting input shapes for our terrain generation. Thanks for watching.